Hi, folks. I'm Joe Wesley, and my guest today is
Jacqine.
fair enough. Thank you. Now, for those, I'm laughing at myself. I'm not Jacqueline Wanda. Jacqueline Wanda is the cuter one on the other side of the screen here. This is a live, unscripted, unrehearsed presentation, and sometimes I muck it up, and that's just part of the fun. That's what running a business is, I guess, all about. And despite the glitches, you still make it work. So please keep in mind that I'm Joe Wesley of J&L Creative Solutions. And the concept of this, for those who are new to us, is I ask my guest, what's your favorite pastime? Because that goes to your passion. And your passion defines who you are uniquely. People can fake or mimic what you do, copy what you do, but they can't fake who you are. And the concept is how do you stand out from the competition? Well, each of us have unique value. And the better we can discover it, the better we can manifest it, the more likely we'll develop a loyal audience. So the way this works is that I begin by asking again, what's your favorite pastime? For about 15 to 17 minutes, I will ask different questions. I keep a pad. I have a mind like a sieve. So I keep a notepad with a red pen and I make notations. And at some point, I'll refer back to my notes, begin by getting clarity, confirmation, or refutation of what I think my image is of Jacqine. Now, understand, this is only 30 minutes. When I say what's your secret sauce, and that's what we're going for here, we're talking salt and pepper. We haven't done the parsnip or the anchovies or anything like that. So, but it's an eye opener, just a peek of one secret sauce concept. So, Jacqine, to get started, what's your favorite pastime?
Yeah, I love to cook. I love being a chef in the kitchen.
Can I answer? Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Now, when you say you love to cook, I get in mind that you're the only child, 3 years of age, and both your parents worked hard, and you had to be you cooked for the whole family when you were 3 to 5 years of age. I'm not buying that version. So if we go back that far, what kind of things did you like to do? Say between 5 and 7-ish.
I have a brother. He loves to dance. He's not a cook that I know of, but he has his talents. But as
Okay.
far as myself, it's interesting. You say that what you mentioned just now. I started cooking at the age of 15 years old, and so I would cook for people in my house.
Well,
And
let me ask you though, what grabbed you? I know some of this will encourage the daughters to be involved in cooking. Others will say, no, you go out and do something else with your life. I'll do the cooking. What drew you in that direction?
oh, I just was trying to experiment with different things at 15. In my, I meant to say my mother's apartment. At that age, she used to cook, so I loved watching her cook, and she would say, "Go ahead and try things on your own."
Right.
And so I would experiment with different ingredients at the time, trying to see what spices went with what sauces I can put on what, whether it was meats or fish or chicken. So yeah, different types of foods, and then that's where I started to feel the creativity evolve from
Okay.
that standpoint.
I hear
Um,
that. Now, let me backtrack though. That you see, that's you began to feel the creativity involved, but it sounds like you were already being creative. You said you like trying different dishes,
yeah.
so it's kind of which comes first, the chicken or the chicken or the carriage on this one. I'm going to go back to when you were 12 years of age. You said you like trying different things. So, do you a skater at some point, or in front of the stage and in class at some point? Did you like to draw at some point when you're in that pre-17 age group?
I never was able to draw. My dad was talented in that, but I was a musician. I have been a musician since the age of 9.
Okay.
So creativity came in that realm too. So yeah, I'd love to experiment with music, but also in terms of sometimes even when I was at a younger age, even like, blocks, I love putting things together and aligning them and just really learning how things are built. And yeah, there was a definitely the creative spark that was in me that was just wanting to be developed, at some time in the future from that time. So yeah.
If I can interrupt, as a musician, what instrument do you play? One type or
Oh,
several?
yeah, I play piano. I started playing organ when I was around 9 years old. Taught myself. Later on, I picked up the flute a little bit, recorder. Um, but my main instrument would be keyboards, and then I also sing, and then I write patterns of instrumentation through MIDI around different instrumentation from keyboards. I can write patterns for strings and brass and drums and
Now, are you
many,
talking
many.
to a person that's not a music person? You say write patterns. Does that mean compose, or is that something different?
Yeah, it is composing. So I'm confident actually if I picked up those instruments rather than playing them through a keyboard, I'm confident that I could, if I knew the fingering, I could play the instruments themselves. But I do it through keyboard, that I write these patterns through the keyboard, and that's for brass and bass and many instruments. I can do less than 25 instruments or more than 25 instruments, actually.
Interesting. Give me a few moments to keep up with you, my writing down. I'll be with you a moment and stick to. When you say, I'm intrigued by the term pattern, and I'm writing that down also, versus composing. I'm very good anal compulsive on wording and semantics. I think it's meaningful. And pattern to me is compared composing. Composing is, to oversimplify, it's the methodology of putting something somewhere that can be observed by other people. It could be composing in your head. When I hear you say pattern, I get a sense of imagery that you get. And from that imagery, you compose. It's like one comes before the other. Am I off on that, or?
That's interesting. Yes, it's very interesting because when I write and compose, what I mean is compose
I get that.
with patterns. There's different instrumentation that I have to layer with each other, like sync up with each other.
Right.
So a lot goes into it. What the type of beat that you're doing, the type of tone that you're doing, the instrument sound that you're doing. It There's a number of factors that are going into this. The type of song you're doing, the genre, the mood. The notes that could go together or not go together. So there's different factors that go into it that make up that pattern, and then
Mm-hmm.
layering them on top of other patterns. So when you have strings and brass and drums and guitar, it's figuring out what sounds good together. Otherwise you get dissonance, and that doesn't sound too good. So you have to kind of filter out, and that's what I did from a very early age. Was in terms not doing the patterns at a very early age, but what I learned at 9 years old or 10 years old was filtering out sounds, and that was important for me to be able to get to the advanced level of segmenting these patterns out, where I could compose different layers of music.
Right. Now, when you say filtering out sounds, I've not heard that before. Conceptually, rephrase that. I listen to an orchestra or any kind of music. I'll be more basic. People sing a song to music. The words are all to me meshed off together. My wife will know the words. She'll mouth with the singing. I'm just hearing a voice, maybe one or two words here. It sounds like, and I'll use that as the music metaphor also, that you're hearing the nuanced sounds, the pitches, if I'm saying these things correctly, that you're picking up specifically in a segment. I wrote down segmenting. You used that word, and I wrote it. Maybe I wrote it down. I forgot now how that came about. But what I'm getting here is a sense of an intuitive concept. Composing. I don't know many musicians who compose or who write music. So at some point, you have to think of the song, the melody, the mood, the theme, the intent. I get that structure if I'm saying it correctly.
Yes,
But
exactly.
what I'm hearing from you though is certainly if you're listening, it's, and maybe this is all for all musicians who are good at what they do. But when you say looking at the pattern, I get it more of kind of an intuitive concept as opposed to more of a mechanical concept. I know there's a sliding scale if I'm saying that correctly, but that's what I'm hearing when I'm hearing you talk. That it's a different level. I don't know how to say it any better. Am I far off on that?
Not at all. So what happens is that when I mention filtering out sounds, it's finding sounds for the type of genre you're writing in. because different genres are going to have different sounds.
Right.
For example, if you're writing international music, which I do, world music as well.
Hmm.
So I do Greek, Italian, Spanish, and French music. There are certain notes that will go with those genres that maybe are not um, general, that don't always, um, how should I say, are not always in the American music, for example.
Right.
So I try to filter the sounds out to fit what the type of music is sounding like in that particular genre. So
Hmm.
I have that in mind when I'm writing for a particular area of music. And it could be like film scores, for example. They might have different sounds than if you're writing like something that's a pop song or
Hmm.
writing something that's a rock song. You could have different sounds in a rock song. You might have a very a guitar that's more wobbly in a rock song as opposed to something that's sounding more popish of a bass in a pop song.
I hear
So,
that. Now, another question for
yeah,
you, and rephrase that, folks. Um, I sometimes will interrupt because I need different dots to connect
it's
to get
okay.
an image.
Sure.
So I'm sorry for interrupting, but that's where I am on this. You mentioned listen to types of music and having a recognition of their style. Is your and you compose? I think you've said that. Do you is the composition you do of a given genre to maintain the flavor or to challenge it or a combination of?
Well, that's a good question. To maintain the flavor or challenge it. If anything, I'd be challenging myself to put out the best piece of music that I can do for that genre.
I hear.
So,
Let me ask it differently. And the best that you can do, I get that. I get the impression. Let me say this differently. That there are people who are mechanically very good. I don't care what the industry is. It could be an architect, it could be a carpenter, it could be a singer, but there are others that, in some manner, will have a nuanced flavor in a
mhm.
given environment. And my guess is that while you will obtain proficiency because it's natural to you, but I'm going to take a stab at this and say that somehow it will have your unique flavor. I'll say it differently. Look at a painting and say, oh, that's a Picasso, because there's something unique about
Yes,
them, even though it's surrealistic painting.
that's absolutely right. Because I think that every composer has their own sort of fingerprint on
Mm-hmm.
their music and the way they write, even though there's, say, 88 keys on a keyboard. Each composer, the way they compose, the way they play the music, the way they put together the music
Right.
could be very different or would be very different from someone else writing music. I've been told that my music is unique, and I love hearing that, because it's me, it's coming from me. And the sounds, the genres that I write in. I write in many genres too.
Right. Okay, I get that. I like that. Thank you. Well, I'm going to ask this. At this point, folks, I share my concept of this Jacqine that I'm speaking with. Again, I'm Joe Weston, not the very cute one on the other side of the screen here for those who maybe are coming in late. First off, commercial break before I go further. That, again, for those who are coming back to see us again, thank you very much. Those who are seeing us for the first time, we do post on multiple platforms: LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Alignable. And in that posting, there'll be a description section that will provide the links to contact both Jacqine and myself. Uh, as you learn more about her in the remaining time that we have here, you have more questions for her, you feel you might have need for her services, please reach out to her. From my perspective, if you'd like to ask questions of me, you'd like to be a guest, we, in any instance, ask that you share. We do all and comment, more importantly. Share a thumbs up, a thumbs down, anything but no thumb at all. And we will try very hard as we audit to respond back. And remember to share it with other people, invite them to come to the program also. So again, there'll be postings, there'll be descriptions. Please reach out, please contact either of us. But remember also to subscribe to my YouTube link. Now, having said that, I'm going to ask what got you in the path to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I was in the corporate world for many years,
Mm.
And I loved what I did. I worked in the language services industry for over 14 years, and it was
Okay.
great. And I was in sales, so I supported a sales team, even trained people in sales.
Excuse me, I have to stop because
Yeah.
I'm now in a whole different direction here. I go from the purely creative side to my bias of corporate. And corporates do good things. They make lots of money, but usually by buying smaller companies. I'm assuming people take a job on because they got to pay the bills, minimally speaking. You got involved in corporate because you got a degree in what that moved you in that direction, or somebody, hey, they looked at you and say, hey, could you do this because I think you'd be good at it? How did that work for you?
So I have my bachelor's degree in education of the speech and hearing impaired. That was my, for my schooling. And then when I
Let me
got
stop
out,
again. Folks, I'm tripping over myself on this. Why did you choose that as a major out of curiosity?
yeah, sure. I had a speech class, which was like speech communications. It was a course that everybody had to take in the program that I was in at college. And
And what was your program?
it was, what did they call it? I'm forgetting the name of the program, but it was I went to Brooklyn College. That was
Okay.
where I went to school.
So
So
I'm gonna interrupt again. I'm being rude today. Why did you choose that major? Let me ask you that in that
So
manner.
a teacher approached me, and the
Oh,
teacher said, "I think you would be really great at speech pathology audiology, and
okay.
you should take a few courses." And so I did.
All right.
And she wrote me recommendation letter. She really liked, my speeches and all that. So she was the one to present me, direct me in that direction. So once I started to take more courses, that's when I um, you know, decided that it was time to graduate. I had started off as a music major. I had taken music conservatory courses,
Right.
and I, studied voice privately outside of that. I also made the conservatory of music my second time around in opera, and I was singing arias. I sang in English and Italian arias. So that was great. I even learned to sing in German from the teacher I was studying with. So yeah, so then I changed majors. I graduated.
I'm going to interrupt again, folks. Too much. She's got this lady, and I say this in all admiration. You have 30 minutes won't be long enough. However concise I make this, because each time you take a breath, I want to ask you more questions. So let me do it this
Okay.
way. I'm going to say, let's ask you, because I have a concept. I began with a blank sheet of paper. I may share that with you. It's now filled up with information. So I don't have any more space. So we have to now move on. And the concept is, what is it you do now for business? What got you on that path?
Yeah. So interestingly, I created my own strategies and sales to combine into the ebook. So what I have here is a musical interactive e-cookbook with comedy stories and international cuisine. And
Right.
within that, there's sales strategies that are taught in a comical way. So it teaches sales do's and don'ts
Mm-hmm.
in a comical way where
Right.
people could be interested, so that's how things tie together in that sense. But they're my own strategies, that I came up with, new
Why do you like
strategies.
you say the comical when you emphasize that? Why do you like? What is it about the approach, the humor approach, if I understood you correctly, that you enjoy using or utilizing as part of your program?
Yes, yes. So I was going to say that, sometimes you go through courses and whatnot, and the sales courses, are maybe they need to make them more upbeat or something that is more interesting for people to pay more attention or be more involved, because everybody learns in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the comedy approach is great because, it helps people to really want to, be involved with that rather than being bored by it where they tune out. So I just think that, it really lends itself to creativity, but also to learning as well. So the education aspect.
I hear that. I'm going to share my concept with you, and then we'll take it a little bit further. That we start off at asking questions that you talked about music being part of your life initially. And as a part of a younger age, you love using building blocks, I guess. And I get the image of putting things together. Again, a creative concept. And music allowed you to do it beyond that. And you talk about composing, you talk about singing, you talk about playing different instruments, opera, you use that. Your genres vary very much so. And I get the impression you were competent. Some people may have attention deficit disorder and they do things for 2 weeks and they're off to something else. I don't get that from you in terms of who you are. I get somebody who learns a skill, learns a technique, and is intrigued by another technique. And you could argue that the nuance of that, but you become proficient. You stay at it long enough that you become proficient, very much so. And then you talk about composing, you talk about more the pattern of it than in creativity. Again, I get compulsive in semantics. I see a fine line distinction between having the art form technique of creating something or composing something versus creating. And maybe it's the same. Maybe I'm lost on the semantic side of it. But I get from you, it's instinctive, intuitive. And it may be for creators of any technique, that could be the case. So it's not in itself making you different, but it describes a person to me that has an inner quality about herself that is questioning, that you talk about, I think, cooking, same kind of thing. You're putting a meal is putting together music as a food substrate rather than an audio substrate. And I suspect your meals, by the way, if you're cooking holiday dinners and you're having guests, slip me the address. I suspect you're very good at what you do, like everything else that you do.
And it's a combination, the thing I put together with this ebook, it's like a dinner show in the kitchen. So when people are cooking, they can hear character voices. I do character voices, voiceovers. I put in sound effects, but also, I sing, and there's some instrumental music. So there's an experience there, and people can follow along with some recipes as they're cooking, but it's a fun experience as they're doing it. So again, a learning experience in that realm as well.
Sure. And so what I'm seeing here, and I'm giving us some more breathing space in terms of coming to a conclusion, that you enjoy, not only good at it, you enjoy figuring out what pulls things together. And I'll use the metaphor of making a great meal experienced. Now, I'm going to skip around a little bit. You say the most exuberant smile I've seen in some time says, I like my music because that's me. And I think musicians, more than, and maybe chefs, more than any other group of people, understand unique value. That there's something about you that the general public may not quite get into. And the fact that being a coach, putting people together, how many coaches are there? 10 gazillion as far as I know when I last counted. But you use also as an ingredient, you didn't spend much time on that, using humor as part of your approach. It's not all things for all people. And each of us, again, part of the secret sauce, not if you hate peanut butter, and I happen to hate peanut butter, that's why I use it. No matter how well someone markets peanut butter, and no matter how many awards it gets, I ain't buying it because I just don't like peanut butter. But I love orange marmalade. And I think Jacqine has the skill to help you find your secret sauce. And as a result, you're not losing time trying to chase down a market that doesn't really get into you. And what I appreciate about the value of humor, I believe in the concept about beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Mm-hmm. And humor is effective if it impacts the person you're engaged with in a positive manner. It can be negative, but that puts a burden, a challenge on the giver of the human to have a read on that person is sharing it with. Now, if you're on screen, you don't know who's putting in, but those who don't like your humor, move on. And those who follow you will grow. So I think that's true for any business, that you have a style about yourself. For those that appreciate the value of humor, and you may not, but after talking to, I have James.
I always put humor in a positive light. I put it in a positive light. I have a positive
as I said, this is unscripted, unrehearsed. I work anal compulsively on this, and despite myself, here I am again. I'm talking to Jacqine. There's not a different person sitting here, but that's funny. Actually, no, it isn't. Let me double check one other item. Am I getting it right now?
Oh, my companies.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry for that,
No,
folks,
that's
and
okay.
sorry to
It's
myself.
somebody else's name.
Fair enough. And humor has several purposes, to say this differently. Besides engaging your ideal audience, besides having put a challenge on you to identify yourself well enough that works best for you, it also, you realize, if you engage your audience through humor and they engage back to you, you not have dialogue, as opposed to somebody tapping their finger, looking at the watch, saying, I got to go pick up the babysitter in 2 minutes. I hope this person hurries up what they're talking about. So I get the sense, again, humor is not for everybody, but for those who are intrigued by the concept of it, I know people who try to use humor and say it doesn't come natural. Well, to be blunt, not many people I know are naturally successful. They have to work at it to some degree and learn new skills. And if you see the value of somebody who is curious beyond belief, not to get lost with it, but to become competent with it, to the point that people will invite her to be involved. And each time she does, it's like wearing a dark cashmere sweater and you're walking by a construction site and all this stuff is sticking to you and you just keep on going. But more enriched because of what you have. I wasn't alluding to what you were wearing. That's funny. But I think you present a style about yourself. Part of your secret sauce ingredient, I will say it like that, is you have natural skill, lots of energy, a quality that is right brain dominant, but still structurally. You don't create a good composition. You don't create, be it music or food, unless you follow through to make it happen. And I think if that type of environment appeals to you in the audience, certainly Jacqine is the person you want to get in touch with. Any thoughts you'd like to take us home with, Jacqine?
Yeah, I'd say, for people trying to be entrepreneurs and wanting to find their skills and do their passion, just do it. Try to get things happening and try to find those paths that lead you to where you want to be, short-term and long-term goals. And if you have a passion for it and enjoy it, I feel like things will progress and you'll find the paths that hopefully are lucrative at the end
Right.
of the day. Yeah.
And what I'm hearing is not the burden is on you, the consumer, the client, pure and simple. Jacqine has expressed the ability to read her environment, to read your nuances, to read your pattern, to read your style, and be able to, I won't say poke at you, but to pull out from you qualities about yourself that you weren't aware of and enhance the ones that are best for you. Maybe suggest the ones that perhaps need improvement or the ones to drop. I have no idea. Lots and lots of coaches. But I think certainly one of the unique concepts about Jacqine is she's demonstrated an ability to, as you would say, look at the art form of something, the pattern of it, to read it well and put it together in an image that will feed the value that you bring to the table and feed the consumer that you're trying to market yourself to as a business owner. Am I far off on that?
No, I feel like, being a business owner, at first it's like there's like a lot of overwhelming things to think about structuring out. But I think that once people start to realize, well, this is how I can do it. What's working for them, what isn't working for them, then they can move forward in the best way possible.
I hear that. I'm going to nuance this a little bit differently. I think virtually any coach could make, I'll say to be blunt, that type of speech. What I'm seeing is somebody who can help you. You can enjoy what you're doing besides the drudgery of the mechanics of exercising every day in a virtual, metaphorical manner to build a better business. Learn something about yourself, smile while you're doing it, and become more proficient as you're doing it also.
Yeah.
And help someone pull that out of you with a smile, with energetic manner. And I think Jacqine fits that role very well. I want to thank you for being a guest. We should have allotted an hour and a half for this because lots and lots of quality that you bring to the table and enthusiasm and value. Thank you for being a guest. Thank you, audience, for watching us. We do appreciate it. And I think we're going to finish on time this time. Take care, folks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A pleasure.